Today's lecture is about the tabulation of the data. In previous lecture, we have gone through what the data is and what are the different types of the data. After collecting the data, the next step is to organize and simplify that data so that we can get general overview of the results and will draw conclusions from it. Before going through the procedure of the tabulation of the data, let me see some terms which are used in the tabulation form. Raw data. Raw data is the data collected in the original form which is not summarized. It's also called the ungrouped data. Let me take an example. I have asked for the age of the 9 children and they give me this data. Somebody was of 2 years, some 6, some 8 and so on. From this data, I cannot conclude anything. It's in raw form. Class limit. Class limit is the minimum and the maximum value of the class interval. From the above data, I have framed two class limits. The children who are from 1 to 5 years of age are in this class limit, class interval, and the children who are 6 to 10 years of age are in this class interval. The class limit is of two types: upper class limit and the lower class limit. Upper class limit is the maximum value of any class interval, and the lower class limit is the minimum value of any class interval. Here, the maximum value of this class interval is 5, so the upper class limit is 5. And in this class interval, it is 10, so the upper class limit is 10. Likewise, the lower class limit is 1 here, and here it is 6. This type of series is called discrete series. Another series, which is known as the continuous series, there is no gap between the upper class limit of one class and the lower class limit of another class. This is known as the class boundaries. These are the actual class limits. Class width, it's also known as the size of the class. The size of the class, we get it by subtracting the lower class limit of one class and the lower class limit of another class, or by subtracting the upper class limit of one class and the upper class limit of another class. Here the class width in this example is 5. Class midpoint. Class midpoint is the middle value of the class interval. It is given by the formula upper limit plus lower limit divided by 2. It's the mean of the upper limit and the lower limit. In this example, we have the midpoint of first class 3 and the midpoint of second class is 8. One of the methods for simplifying and organizing the data is to construct the frequency distribution. Frequency distribution is an organized tabulation showing exactly how many individuals are located in each category. Table that divides the data in groups or in classes and shows how many data values occur in each group or in each class. Frequency distribution is of two types. One is ungrouped frequency distribution and second is grouped data frequency distribution. Ungrouped data frequency distribution is used when the data is in the qualitative form or when it is discrete data. In previous class, we have gone through what is the qualitative data and what is the discrete. We will take here an example. I have surveyed the 20 families for the number of children and I got this raw data. From this raw data, I cannot conclude anything. It's difficult to have any conclusion. So, to have any conclusion and to give the shape and to simplify this data, we frame the frequency distribution table. Frequency distribution table has 3 columns. One Column first, where we write the variable under study. Here I have the number of children, so I have written the number of children. In column second, we give the tally marks. And in column third, we write the frequencies. In first, where the number of the children, here I see that the lowest number of children is 0 and the highest number of children is 5. So I'm going to write the class intervals is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it's the discrete data. Can you imagine any family having 1.5 child? No, because the number of children is the discrete data. Now, next step is to give the tally marks. Tally marks is the number of the observations in that class. 0 is having 1, 2 times. It's repeated 2 times, so we give the tally mark 2. The 1, we are going to count how many times is 1, 1, 2, and 3. We give the tally mark of 3 lines. And how many times is 2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here it is 5 times. We give the tally marks like this of 4 lines, but when it comes to the fifth observation, the slanting line is to be drawn. Same goes on 3. We count how many times it's 3 and give the tally marks. We count how many times it's 4, give the tally marks, and we count how many times it's 5 and give the tally marks. Next step is to sum these tally marks. By summing it is 2, 3, 5, 4, 3, 3. The total number of the frequencies should be equal to the total number of the observations. Here, the total observations were 20 and the total number of frequencies came out to be 20. From this, we can conclude that the 2 families are having no child, 5 families are having two children, and the highest number of families are having 2 children we can depict from this table. This table ungrouped data frequency distribution can be drawn from the qualitative data. I will give an example. I go on a survey of the hair color of people. I got that somebody is having gray hair, some is having brown hair, and some is having black hair. I go on counting, and then from that raw data, I frame the table like this. But it should be kept in mind the sum of the frequencies should be equal to the number of your observations. Next, ungrouped data frequency distribution. Grouped data frequency distribution. For grouped data frequency distribution, we have to follow some steps. I can say some norms to draw the frequency distribution table. First of all, we determine the range of the data. Our raw data, we find out what is the highest value and what is the lowest value. Range is the difference between the highest value and the lowest value in your ungrouped data, in your raw data. That is the range. Second step is to determine the size of the class interval. Size of the class interval can be determined. It's up to we people how many class intervals we can frame. It is to be kept in mind, if we have more than 200 observations, then there should be more than 25 classes. And if we have less than 100 observations, then the size of the class interval there should be 5 to 15 classes. We get the size of the class interval by this formula. Range, which we have got in above step, and number of the desired classes. It's up to we people how many classes we have decided. Then next step is to write the content of the frequency distribution, like column 1, column 2, and column 3. Next step is to write the class intervals. Next, we put the tally marks and then totaling the tally marks, and then checking the total number of the frequencies. One more method is there to frame the group data frequency distribution table, which is the simplest one I can say. First of all, we determine the number of the classes. It's up to we people how many classes we want to have from that mm, data. And the class width is the maximum and the minimum value divided by the first step what we have decided number of the classes, and we start with the minimum value in our observations to write down the classes, and we start with the minimum value after adding the value which we have got in the set step second and create the classes. Let's take an example. Suppose I have collected the data of 25 students who have secured marks in statistics, and this is the raw data. I cannot conclude anything from this data. So I draw the frequency distribution to simplify it. The procedure for making the frequency distribution table is, first step is to determine the range of the data. What's the highest value in the data in this ungrouped data? 60. And what is the lowest value in this data is 10. So the range of this data is 60 minus 10, which comes out to be 50. Next step is to determine the size of the class interval, which is range, and the number of the classes we are desiring, and the number of the classes we want. Here, the range came out to be 50, and suppose I want to frame from this data 5 classes. 50 divided by 5, that is 10. That's my class size of the class interval should be 10. Okay. Then the next step, keep it in mind that I have to frame the class with the class interval with the size of the class interval 10. And next step is to write the content of the frequency distribution table. Here I go on writing the class interval tally marks and the number of students in each class, that is the frequencies. And second, I frame the class intervals. I start from the lowest value. Lowest value in my data is 10. I start from 10 and go on adding the 10 which I have drawn in previous step, the size of the class interval. So my class intervals are 10 to 19, 20 to 29, 30 to 39, 40 to 49. The size of the class interval is difference between the upper limit of one class and upper limit of one class and upper limit of another class, or the lower limit of one class and the lower limit of the another class. 20 minus 10 is 10. 29 minus 19 is 10. Next step is to put the tally marks. Here, in each class, how many observations fall from 10 to 19, we have to check from the data. 12, 1, here it is 2, 3, 4, 5. And the procedure is same. We give the 4 vertical lines and 1 slanting line, and go on counting in each class and give the tally marks. When it comes to the 5 observations, 1 is the slanting line, and go on counting. Then the next step is to total the number of the tallies. In first class 10 to 19 we have the 5 students. In second class we have the 4 students. In third we have 4 and 5, 6 and 1. I can conclude from this table that only one student is having the highest marks, or only 6 plus 1 is 7. Only 7 students are having the marks above 50. And also then I check the number of the frequencies which should be equal to the number of the observations. Number of the frequencies is here 25 and number of observations I had 25. It is to draw the frequency distribution is to simplify the data. I hope you have understood today's lecture. Our next video lecture will be about the graphical representations, how we show the data in the graphics. Till then, stay tuned to the channel, stay home, stay safe. If you have any comments or any questions, please comment on the video. Thank you.